Hey guys, and welcome to my vlog. Today I wanted to talk to you about Black Lightning, a show that ran on the CW network from 2018 to 2021 under showrunner Salim Akil for a total of 4 seasons. Now, for those who aren't familiar, Black Lightning was a comic book character from the mid-70s, 1977 to be exact. Black Lightning, real life name Jefferson Pierce, is a school principal in the city of Freeland. He is a divorcee from his wife. He has 2 kids, and he has abandoned being a superhero for 9 years because of the fact that it ultimately led to the loss of his marriage and to kind of a post-traumatic moment as he was ultimately a superhero to try and avenge his father as well as to stand up for other people within the community. In this show, you have 2 main villains. The first being Tobias Whale. He is an albino African-American in real life and in the show who has, from a lot of childhood abuse and systematic trauma, become the leader of a gang called the 100. He also does have some abilities that cause him to be super strong. He's hyper intelligent and he's very driven to power. He is very abusive, very toxic, but also insanely smart. He's very aware of the systems in place, and he uses that knowledge to help himself rise to the top. Before the show starts, it's established that he was a well-known politician who was supposed to help the city turn around and was ultimately found out to be corrupt. I would argue that he kind of turns the whole African-American thug mentality on its head. Because although he is definitely the thug character, he adds a certain amount of dignity by bringing forward his story, showing his intelligence, and basically being able to refute all of the things that generally make the thug the bad guy while still being the bad guy. He's not the typical African American running around, gang banging and getting into trouble and raping the white woman. He legitimately wants something. He has a goal for himself, and he thinks that if he can accomplish that goal, all the trauma he has will have been worth it. The other villain that we have in the story is a man named Odell, who is by far, in my opinion, the Uncle Tom character of the show. While he is definitely a government stooge sent to not only control Freeland, not only stop Black Lightning in his mission, but also kidnap and abuse the impoverished people of Freeland for the sake of genetic experiments. He works for the government systems in place, and he is actively abusing his own people. He legitimately voices at one point that this is the way of the world. It should be noted that Black Lightning was not the first African-American superhero. There was Black Panther, Luke Cage being one of the early ones. Black Panther actually came out in 1966 originally with Volume 1. And that was just 2 years after segregation was made illegal in the United States. But it also paved the way for a lot of other heroes like Luke Cage, Black Lightning. There's a lot of characters out there now that are finally getting the voice of the African American community up to a level of respect and knowledge, such as Chadwick Boseman kind of cultured with his role as Black Panther. Going back to Black Lightning, though, that was 1977. Ultimately, it was very kind of Afrocentric. I'll go ahead and share a picture with you. And you'll kind of see that he has the big afro. He has the typical African-American look. He was definitely supposed to be a DEI response from the DC Comics. They wanted to do something that they thought was modern and hip and cool and would really kind of bring them up to the next level, with Black Panther having been out already for 11 years. When the CW started rebooting characters like The Flash, Green Arrow, Batwoman, Black Lightning came up and they put it on the screen. They took a shot at it, and even though it ultimately got canceled due to poor viewership and I would argue poor funding, it dealt with a lot of issues head on that weren't being talked about. We're talking about issues like gun violence. We're talking about systematic racism. We're talking about segregation within the Black community. This is before Tatiana Jefferson in the real world was actually shot down in her home. One of the kids who doesn't want to comply with what the gang is doing is shot in the back and ultimately paralyzed. There's a school shooting in this show. They don't shy away from showing some of the issues that we still have yet to resolve. Now, as far as the project here goes, as far as telling you guys a little bit about the relevance of this today, we had some shows come out. We've had Tyler Perry's Medea as a big hit. We've had Black Panther. as a majority, we're becoming more and more aware of conversations we need to have that revolve around the African American community of the United States today. There's two quotes I'd like to use that this show and this project have really kind of brought to light from the readings that we've had. The first one is from Professor Nancy Ewan in her book Real Inequality, written in 2016. It says, Black movies, or in this case, shows, and the directors are assumed not to perform well, especially among foreign audiences, and are therefore labeled unbankable. I will admit my first draft on this kind of agreed with that, but I had to stop and think about who we look at today, 2025 on screen, and how we are seeing more cultures and more conversations happen than ever. And that definitely kind of disproves, that color makes anyone unbankable. I think it's more about stories. I think it's more about who we want to highlight. And I definitely think that we need to highlight the African American community more, along with LGBT voices, Native American stories. They're not unbankable just because they're being ignored at large. Black Panther has a third movie coming out. We saw Ironheart. A lot of money is being pushed behind these projects. I mean, we had a few years back, Princess and the Frog. We're still singing, almost there, right? These things are able to be sold. These stories are able to be told. And whether we're laughing about it with Medea or we're, crying with, the death of T'Challa, these things are relatable and connectable. The second quote is also from Professor Nancy Ewan's book, Real Inequality. It says, actors of color contest stereotypes while altering the visual, audio, and behavioral markers of stereotypes. Costumes play a big role in marking stereotypical notions of race. We've kind of looked at the look that he had. One of the characters that I haven't really mentioned yet is Gambi. He is the white supporting character. I wouldn't say he's the white savior, although he does show up and help and save the day once in a while. But his character is a tailor, right? Just a humble tailor for those Star Trek fans out there. And he ultimately has to decide how he's going to live his life after being involved with the death of Jefferson Pierce Black Lightning's father, right? He's very much paying his dues more than he is saving the day. And with that, he's designing new suits and new looks, kind of updating to the 2018 standard of what is a good look for an African-American superhero in a place, Freeland, that is very much suffering still. Along with that, we see that his daughters, Anessa and Jennifer, are both kind of the next generation and kind of drive Jefferson crazy, but they also reflect their own style, with Anissa being an LGBT superhero, Jennifer kind of bringing forward what she thinks is the powerful look. So, we see the conversations of what is sexy, what is authentic, what is strong, what is cool, right? All these things are kind of explored through the fashion of the show. And it's not always right in your face. Sometimes it's very subtle. You'll see that we have come a long way since 1977. This being said, we do explore issues like religion. We do explore, like I said, gun violence. We do explore LGBT conversations. We explore revenge. We explore, the thug. We explore the Uncle Tom. There's a lot of things being talked about in this show. At the end of the day, though, the role of Black Lightning may be a harsh one, but it refuses to bow down to cultural assimilation and reinvents the African-American experience. It's a very fresh show, even if you watch it now, especially with some of the things that have happened since it got canceled. It doesn't shy away from the problems of American culture, and it is actively calling for us to overcome some of the stereotypes and some of the conversations that we are so stuck in. That's Black Lightning.